This view is from Lebanon. On the horizon, Israel. And shelling and artillery across this border from both sides has been ramping up with every day. Friday, a journalist was killed on the Lebanese side. Days earlier, a Hezbollah fighter was buried, adding to the tensions. The Israeli military is waiting, reinforcing its side of the border. IDF soldiers have already been killed in the north. The casualties here are mounting. On both sides, people are fleeing their homes, worried that the war with Hamas in Gaza will spill over here, igniting a second front. A war between Israel and Hezbollah, the militant militia based in Lebanon.
Hezbollah is the crown jewel of Iranian militias and proxy forces in the region. While very much a Lebanese group with its representation in parliament, nonetheless, ideologically, it is beholden to Iran.
Just last May, Hezbollah launched war games, exercising its power. Canada has the militant group on its terrorism list. Estimates put Hezbollah's arsenal at 130,000 rockets.
As significant as Hamas's military prowess is, Hezbollah is the A-team, is the most powerful non-state military actor in the world. Hassan Nasrallah, their leader, is on record in saying that everything they have, they owe to Iran, the money, the training, the weapons. And so in many ways, Hezbollah's leadership and Iran's leadership are completely intertwined.
Soon after Hamas launched its brutal attack on Israel, Hezbollah announced its full-throated support.
قلوبنا معكم، عقولنا معكم، أرواحنا معكم، تاريخنا وبنادقنا وصواريخنا معكم.
Sunday, Iran's foreign minister warned Israel to end its barrage on Gaza, saying all options were being considered, raising the threat calculus in Washington.
We are concerned. We see a real risk of escalation on the northern border.
The U.S. is backing Israel to fight Hamas and Israel's enemies, sending now 2 aircraft carrier groups to the region as deterrents.
Any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't.
But for the last week, the U.S. Secretary of State has been on an urgent dash across the Middle East, trying to prevent an explosion into a regional war.
Both sides are in a very high alert mode, and you can sense the panic. You can sense the panic in Lebanon, you can sense the panic in Israel.
As ominous as all this sounds, many analysts suggest at this point, neither Israel nor Iran nor Hezbollah wants to wage war, at least not yet.
They are calculating the risks and the gains. For Iran, they managed to stop or freeze, at least for now, the Saudi-Israeli deal.
A deal brokered by the U.S. to normalize ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel, but which threatened Iran.
They have shifted the narrative. They have definitely regained the resistance narrative that had been dying for so many years.
For so many in this region, the rumblings of a wider war bring back vivid and painful recollections of the lead up to 2006, the last time Hezbollah and Israel were locked in war. This ugly new war has some similar hallmarks: Israeli hostages, escalating, pounding attacks, but in other ways, it is unprecedented. In 2006, Hezbollah sent thousands of rockets into Israel, as far as Haifa. Israel bombed Beirut's airport and sent missiles into Hezbollah strongholds, plunging the whole of Lebanon into war.
This is normally pretty congested in here.
We were there, on both sides, covering the conflict. Trapped in the dark in Tyre, in the south of Lebanon.
Israelis have dropped some kind of troops in the area.
That war ground on for 34 days, causing massive damage and displacement. Lebanon still hasn't recovered.
I think one thing we can learn from the 2006 war is that it reminded Hezbollah and Israel that they don't want an escalation.
So far, he says attacks across the northern border are just within the unwritten rules of engagement, which have been in place since 2006. But the risk of escalation is high.
In 2006, there wasn't the context of this unprecedented level of hostility between Israel and Hamas. This creates its own set of red lines, which haven't been tested by 17 years of history, and have drawn in actors beyond Hezbollah and other regional actors, which are watching the situation in Gaza incredibly closely.
What happens next with Israel's ground invasion in Gaza will ripple across this border and others, potentially pushing other militias in the Arab world to join the fight directly or by proxy.
I think Hezbollah at this point, has chosen to dial up and dial down the pressure, depending on what actually is going on in Gaza.
In Israel and in Lebanon, people are worried the next phase will inflame the region.
I think people are very nervous. People are quite tense. Also, I think people are very accepting of the fact that they don't really have any agency in whatever happens.
There is agreement on one thing: there's no going back to normal.